But yeah, that's
I
the
don't have
same
a pencil,
thing.
that's what I was looking for.
The hour is upon us, and the sirens have announced the beginning of our meeting.
Yeah, that was nice.
If we could go ahead and call the meeting to order, please. And I'd ask everyone to stand for a moment of silence, and then ask Ms. Tackett to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Shall we call the roll?
Mr. Bradley? Here. Mrs. Butcher Conway?
Here.
Mrs. Singer Erdley? Mr. Lusby?
Here.
Mr. Showalter?
Here.
Mrs. Tingle Saints? Here. Mrs. Tackett? Here. Mr. Thompson?
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum. Let's see, each of you should have a copy of the minutes of our last regularly scheduled meeting of April the 9th. If you'd like to look those over for any possible corrections or additions.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. Motion's been made.
Second, Mayor.
And second. And if there are no changes or additions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Each of you in your packet should have received the copy of our latest check register. If you indicate you've received that, thank you. Public comments. First person on the list for public comments is Miss Amelia Cloud. Come up, Amy.
Hi, thanks for having me today. I'm here two-prong. We have to ask for 2 street closures. The Arts and Cultural Center, and Tracy's, you've got all the paperwork, right? Yeah, okay, we emailed it. That made it very simple. The Arts and Cultural Center, where I'm still on the board, is offering a new event this year. We've been working on this for a couple years, but it's going to come to fruition this year. It's called the Dog Days of Summer. So it's everything dogs. And we're going to run it at the Royal Spring Park, but also at the Arts Center. We'll have, I think we're working on getting food trucks there, and we're going to have artists that paint pet portraits there. But at the Royal Spring Park, we're going to have a dog parade. We're going to have costumes optional for the dogs or the people.
I'm having a visual.
They're going to have like doggy daycare and vets and people that make dog snacks and other artists and different vendors that are dog relatable. We're hoping to involve some of the scouts to help us do some of this. We've had a really good reception from folks around town telling us that this sounds like a good idea. So it's going to be July the 28th. So that's the last Saturday in July. And so we're asking for Water Street, just the south portion between Opera Alley and College, to be closed, just so we can have safely people walking in the street there. But that way, if they turn off Main Street, they can go up Opera and park behind the fire station, or come down College Street and park on the street down that way, but just to have that part of the street closed. But we'll have ice cream and lemonade. And
What hours would they need that?
11 to, well, probably 10 in the morning. Is that what she put on there?
10 to 4.
Like 10 to 4, yeah. Part of that will be set up and cleanup. The event won't run quite that long. We will have it longer running over at the Arts Center. We'll have, I think they're looking for real food over there, like barbecue or something like that, and they'll have more snacky type things at the park itself. So that's for the Arts Center. Now the 4th of July post-parade party, you probably know that we started at the Arts Center several years ago, and it's gotten to be such a big event that we expect to have probably close to 400 people. And there's just doesn't seem to be any way to keep that Water Street corridor in front of the Arts Center closed because of the way the parade route has to go, and they have to close that off. So 2 two prongs. Since we're already going to be doing this dog days at the end of July, our board is not big enough to manage and get volunteers to do two large events like that. So I've been on the hunt for another organization to take it over, and it just turns out that the American Legion was looking for an event to have that was very community-oriented, and they've been very integral part of our event anyways, because 2 years ago they opted to do hot dogs, and they just, every year we tell them we'll need more, and they just provide more. So they grill the hot dogs and have the buns and all the condiments, so they were very happy to take this over. So I'm going to work with Ramona Brock and the folks at the Legion, but they're there tonight voting on new officers and talking about this event at the Legion. So she said they couldn't be here this Monday or the following Monday. They must meet every time you all meet. So I said, well, I'm going to be here anyways. I'd be happy to ask for the street to be closed for that. So that, if you remember, I can't vouch for their having a pie tasting contest, so you may or may not be asked for that. I know, it has been. I know, and the chief was here too. I know. That's up to them. I said, you have to make this event your own and do however you want to do it. But again, it'll be at South Water Street, closure between Opera Alley and North College, so we can have that closed. It'll work much better, and it'll be, people usually start coming down there about 10 of 12, and it's usually done by 1:30.
Yeah, and I think, Amelia, the thing that will really have to be, we'll have to make sure that we're ready. I know as soon as the parade's over, the crowd swells at the Arts and Cultural Center, and the crowd's still trying to disperse. So 2 years ago it was uncomfortable, and,
Right.
and we want to make sure we have a good police presence.
Well,
to
this
make
is
sure.
why we're moving it to Royal Spring Park, so we don't have to worry about trying to close that part of the street, which was impossible, because last year, the weather, if you remember, was so horrible. It rained literally all day, from very early until late afternoon, and we had not too many people come. The year before, we had close to 300, and we were expecting over 400. So if the weather cooperates, we could have about 400 people, and there's no way to keep that street open. So if we have it down at Royal Spring with the pavilion over there and have kids' games, and they can make it however they want it, with or without the pie tasting, they can just determine if that works for them. Okay? So, and I wanted to give you
Yeah, Mayor, I'll make a motion for both of them if you like.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Motion's been made and seconded to approve each of the events. Are everybody clear on what we're doing?
Yes.
Thank you. If so, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Can't wait for the dog days of summer.
Sassy Boots and I will be there.
Okay, who's got dogs?
All of us, I think.
All right, well, there you go. You better be there.
Thank you.
Be there or be square. Jack's gonna be wearing a costume.
I'm gonna let him walk my dog. Let him. I'm gonna let him. Did you hear that?
I'm gonna let you.
Thank you, ma'am.
You will. That's what friends are for.
Thank you, Amelia. Ms. Cloud was the only person who had signed up for public comment, unless there's anyone else in the audience that would like to speak. Good, thank you. Well, in that case, then it goes to mayor's comments. But they'll be relatively brief tonight. Something we've mentioned in earlier council meetings, and Chuck, I think you first brought this to my attention. Our next regularly scheduled council meeting will fall on a holiday, on Monday the 28th. What we would, no, that would be,
One after the next.
yes, that would be the second meeting in May.
May, yes.
Thank you. Now I'm straight. The 28th of May is a holiday, which would be our second meeting in May. We anticipate presenting you the budget at the first meeting in May. So the second meeting in May, the meeting that we're talking about, becomes fairly important because it would represent the first reading of the budget ordinance. Since we do not vote on first reading of the ordinance, we thought if we had presented the budget and most of the questions had been answered, then we could have an early meeting on Tuesday, 5/29, that next morning after the holiday, at 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock.
And get the first reading of the budget ordinance. Robert Bruin, by that point, will have the results of a salt auction that he has to get approved before the next meeting. So we just want to talk with you about that May the 28th and how you would like to best schedule the replacement meeting.
Well, I can tell you, I won't be here that next morning.
Okay.
I'll be coming home from New York City, so that won't help me, but
Could you do it in the afternoon easier?
I'll do it whenever it suits.
Would you be home in the afternoon, Chuck?
I think so.
Like 6
6 o'clock?
That would make me happy.
You're not flying by yourself, are you? You know.
But
I'm gonna have a challenge that Tuesday evening.
I am too.
Tuesday evening, there's a chamber business after hours.
What about we do it the following Monday at 6 o'clock? What does that look like for everybody?
On the 30th
Uh-huh.
at 6 o'clock?
I'd
Works fine for me.
rather do it then than,
What are y'all talking about? May the 30th is a
Oh,
Wednesday.
excuse me, I'm on the wrong.
Whatever the next
June,
Monday
flip the
is.
calendar there. June the 4th, Mayor,
June the 4th.
June the 4th.
at 6 o'clock?
We could do that. And just what that will mean is we'll have a meeting 2 weeks in a row, but that's okay.
So you're doing it at night?
So we're going to do it at night. In place of the May 28th council meeting, we will meet on Monday, June 4th at 6 o'clock.
Make a motion, Mayor.
Thank you. Second. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. And this will be just for the second reading of the budget, correct?
It'll be a called meeting.
Okay.
And we will certainly have that on the agenda. There'll also be a salt bid.
Okay.
And frankly, if we've got some housekeeping things that simply need taken care of at that point, we will.
Okay.
But I expect the main order of business to be that second read, or first reading.
I'm confused.
Okay. Let's see, wanted everybody to know that we had we had a real good turnout for the Main Street Clean Sweep. We had police officers, we had firefighters, we had most of City Hall, and I forget the final count on trash bags, but there was a lot of trash downtown picked up. We did that downtown on Friday. Actual Earth Day was on Sunday, and our partner, Bluegrass Green Source, was here on Sunday handing out materials, and we had spoken with a couple of churches that may want their congregations to do cleanup, and apparently we had about 40 people out working on Sunday after they came here to City Hall to get their materials. Related to that same idea of cleanliness, and want to remind the council that Super Recycling Day is May the 12th. Out at Toyota for Georgetown, Scott County residents, it's from 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock. And just everybody remember, it's real easy. They'll take everything. You don't have to get out of your vehicle. If you have very sensitive documents that you'd like to get rid of, they'll have a company there with a cross-cut shredding machine, and they guarantee chain of custody. So if you have sensitive documents, it's a great place to get them destroyed and shredded. So Hazardous Duty Day, May 12th. And that, just to remind you, that the city pays $10,000, county pays $10,000, and Toyota contributes the rest, which is probably 100,000 plus. Also, to just repeat to the council, our new engineer, Eddie Hightower, is, we've made it clear we want to pave streets this summer and not be as late in the year as we've been in our last several years. So Eddie's putting together a list. He's reviewing all of the, several years ago, you approved us to x-ray all the streets, and we have a paving condition composite number. He's given us a list of those ranked by the composite ranking, but we still do this by looking at it, seeing it, and driving it. So if you all have suggestions, please let us know. If you get
Mayor?
complaints about a street,
Can Main Street, West Main Street, have some more holes filled? I mean, I don't know if that's on the list to be paved.
we're in contact with District 7 about that. That's a state road, and we do not
Yeah.
maintain West Main Street,
Even the potholes?
even the potholes.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Mayor,
Yes,
real
sir.
quick, what if, where the curbs and gutters on some, in subdivisions, the asphalt right now is kind of flush with those, will they be milling those areas?
Eddie, since he's fresh
Yeah,
to this, he's reviewing all the streets that may need milling so that we don't top out on curbs.
yeah,
We're also talking about some of our most glaring needs, David, are going to require curb work before we can do good pavement work.
yeah.
Just walk down Mulberry Street beside the Episcopal Church, and
Yeah,
that curb is eroded.
Yeah.
It's completely gone. And we just authorized as a part of the MAP project to have that curb completely replaced before we pave Mulberry Street.
Yeah.
Also, David, we're required on each of the streets that we pave to go back and do a correct handicap ramp at the right angle, the correct angle of the sidewalk onto the street. And what we're going to try and do this year, so as to make that administratively easier, is see if we can bid through the paving contractor and have them align the subcontractor work. They can coordinate it better
Yeah.
than we can
Yeah.
coordinate two different contracts. And we've got some places where it's just going to make no sense to pave if we don't fix curb.
Good.
Now, we know that sidewalks belong to the homeowners, but the curb's our responsibility.
Thanks.
Okay, let's see. Moving through the rest of the agenda, we have the presentation of our fiscal year 17-18 audit. So Stacy's here and our auditors are here. Oh, I didn't come, I will come back to that.
Oh, excuse me. I'm Heather Cochran. I'm with RFH. We've been doing your audit for several years now. In front of you, you should have a green-bound audited financial statement, which has our audit reports in it, as well as just a separate communication with the council. So we will start with the green-bound book. Within these financial statements, so these are your all's financial statements. I always like to stress that. We help you all kind of put it together in this format, but they're your financial statements. We have two opinion letters within this book. They are on page 1 and 2 is the first one. This is the Independent Auditor's Report. If you look on page 1, at the very bottom of the page where it says opinion, it says, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects. That's a clean opinion, as good as it gets. That's what you're looking for when you're looking for an audit opinion, okay? So that's the audit opinion on the financial statements. The other letter that we have within this bound book is the Independent Auditor's Report on Internal Control and Compliance. That is actually the last 2 pages of the booklet. It's on page 48 and 49. So because you all are a governmental entity, you have to have a secondary report on internal control and compliance. This would be the place where if we found some kind of compliance issue, if we had some major issue with internal controls, it would be in these last 2 pages. There's nothing in there. If you read through it, it would basically say that we didn't have any instances of non-compliance related to internal controls. Excuse me. We didn't have any material weaknesses related to internal controls. So again, that's kind of as good as it gets for this report. So there's nothing in there that I want to point out on those last 2 pages. The rest of this information is your all's financial statements. So just kind of hitting a few of the high points within this book. If you turn to page 13, Your financial statements are divided between what we call governmental funds, which is kind of your general operations. This would be police, fire, administration, all those general operations of the city. And then what we call proprietary funds, which are your utilities, Georgetown Municipal, those types of things. Land, if you had landfill, those types of funds. So page 13 lays out your governmental funds. So this is your statement of revenues. This is your income statement for your governmental funds only. So total revenues in 2017, $26,824,373. You can compare that with 2016. You were at $28,762,000 in 2016. So revenues were down just a little bit. They were down primarily related to, I believe you all had some additional license and permits. If you look at